Trip City there in Florida. So she's on the call. Let's get into it. All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is Coach Ev, as I like to call her. And it's funny because my oldest boy's name is Evan, so I call him Ev. She is Coach Ev. And do you prefer to go by your maiden last name or your married last name as a coach?
Well, everybody here is Coach Evelyn, to be honest with you. I live in the South, so it's Miss Evelyn or Coach Evelyn. But I've never really gone by as far as like coaching wise. It was either Coach Evelyn or Coach Del Hoya before I got married. But ever since I've been married, I've coached older girls, so it's always been a first name basis.
Okay, so awesome. So you guys have it. She's got a very long last name if you look at her on social. What is your Instagram handle, by the way?
eMessenger13.
Oh, super simple. So if you guys want to follow her, because she drops a lot of content on her Instagram, softball related. She also is on Facebook, and I believe you have it hooked up to where you're posting both things, or it's automatically coming out.
Yeah, I try to at least. There's some that I keep off my Facebook simply because my Facebook is followed by my family who's completely on the other side of the country, scattered all over the place due to us being in the military. But most of my contact goes directly from Instagram to Facebook.
Awesome. Okay, so follow her on Instagram for all the softball stuff. And yes, she's a military family. Her husband is currently deployed right now, and he will be back in October.
So we're hoping for.
All my praying people out there, we're going to lift up Coach Evelyn and her family, as well as her husband, that everything works out, as well as other military families who are supposed to be coming home in October. So I know she's out there working hard. If you guys follow her on Instagram, you're going to see her like literally moving plates. She's big into lifting, CrossFit. The chick is buff. What can I say? And that's another connection, not just softball, that Coach Evelyn and I share, is we like to lift weights. We like to move heavy things. We like to walk. We don't like to run. So, but enough of that. She mentioned that she's scattered clear across the other side of the country, and that's going to bring me back to where it all started. So I'm going to give Coach Ev the platform to talk about like where she's from, and she's going to talk about where she's from, played high school ball, travel ball, where she played college ball, and you guys are going to love it, the international level of playing that she did. So she's going to share that with us quickly here. So here we go.
All right. So like she said, my name's Evelyn Messenger. I'm born and raised in what used to be Little Yuma, Arizona. But I went back this last summer after being a hiatus from there for about 7 years, and it's grown drastically by like 3 or 4 times since I've left. Born and raised there. Played high school ball at Yuma High School. I'm a Yuma Criminal. Travel ball. I was actually late to the travel ball scene. I didn't quite play year round. I was the kid that wanted my time. My parents were agriculture workers, so I didn't have the ability to just go. And so it was when I got old enough to like start working for myself and being able to pay like my dues and extra uniforms and gas money. Then it was, trips to Tucson where I played for
let's put that on replay. You got a job, like a side hustle, to pay for your softball dues and your uniform and all the jazz.
Yes, ma'am. And my equipment, because like I said, my parents were field workers. They picked lettuce seasonally, and we were not I can't say we weren't well off. We had what we needed, but we definitely didn't have all the things. You know what I mean? So like a lot of what we did for extracurriculars, they took care of the physicals. It took care of like gloves, cleats, but anything outside of that, I had to help with, which I was, grateful that I was able to have what I had. But, when you get to a point of competitive ball, it gets expensive, and it gets expensive really, really fast. So I had to do what I had to do if I really wanted to continue to play the sport.
I love that. I mean, I don't know about you guys as parents, but I like hearing the backstory on coaches because it tells me a lot about their work ethic. So you're going to want to lean into this, because this is another reason why Coach Ev and I connect so much, is our backstories. We have a lot of work ethic from how we were raised and what we had to go through to bring us to where we're at now. So on the travel team. You played in Tucson. What was
Hmm.
it called? What was your travel team?
So I got to play, I don't know if they're still around. The Cats, the Tucson Cats, they might be the Arizona Cats now, but once upon a time they were the Tucson Cats.
Awesome.
And so I played for them for like 2 falls. It wasn't even like a full, I played 2 fall ball seasons with them. Because my summers were my summers. I mean, I was a kid. I didn't, I
Hmm.
worked so that I could have fun. And I did a lot of different style type of training in my summers. It wasn't like continued playing year round. And I personally think that kept me healthy. Because as a catcher, year round catching would have killed me.
Oh, yeah.
And
I mean,
so what I
and something I love about you is tell me how tall you are again.
I'm 5'1".
She's 5'1", guys, and she played at the international level as a catcher. So if your daughter is short, if you're an athlete and you're listening to this and you're on the shorter side, like do not put a ceiling on yourself. So that right there, like the fact that you didn't catch all year round and you stayed healthy, that probably fed in to where you're at now as an
Mm-hmm.
athlete. You're not even 40 yet and you're still thriving. Like I feel like that too is that work ethic foundation right there.
Mm-hmm. I'm gonna kind of piggyback on that and use somebody else as an example. Natalie Lugo, pitcher at the University of Florida, 5'4", and has one of the nastiest rise balls I have ever seen thrown in a game. And she'll tear it up. She'll give you 3 tears. You know what I mean? And so eh, everybody that's got the mentality of I've got to be a certain height to play D1, that's a load of crap. I didn't play D1. I had the opportunity, and unfortunately, and I'll own up to this one. Grade slipped, opportunity fell. I had to go the hard route. I had to go JUCO. You know what I mean? I was a
Me too.
JUCO bandit.
Yep.
I was a JUCO bandit, and I loved every minute of it because the
Yep.
grind was so different. The grind was so different. Like, and so I played at Yuma High. From there, I actually walked on at Pima Community College in Tucson. I played and trained. I never suited up though. I'll definitely say this. I never suited up because of the amazing coach that I had there, Stacy Iverson. She's a Hall of Famer now.
Yep.
She's a 2-time national champion at the University of Arizona. Phenomenal coach. I got to train and work under her for a year, and she straight up told me, "I don't want you to suit up because I don't want you to lose a year." Not very many coaches are willing to do that.
But not many athletes are willing to do that today.
Yeah,
Are you
no, for
kidding me?
sure.
Because
Not
of the portal now, they're like deuces. I'm jumping back in.
yeah.
Yeah, that's
So I
huge.
didn't suit up. I
Okay.
didn't suit up, and the catcher I was catching behind was 5'10".
It's like David versus Goliath.
Yes, ma'am, and she was a. I, I was behind her for a reason. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? I was
yeah, yeah.
behind her for a reason. She was actually a U of A commit and decided that she wanted to do 1 year under Stacy and then transfer out. Well, some other stuff happened, and she ended up doing her second year there. And Coach Addison came to me and was like, "Look, I helped you out by not letting you suit up this year because I didn't want you to lose a year. But Teeny staying, that was her name was Christina, and we called her
Hmm.
Teeny because she was so small,
So teeny tiny. Yeah.
so teeny tiny. She's like Teeny staying, and the only advice I could give you right now is either you stay behind and work in the bullpen, or use what you know and go take a spot somewhere down in the valley. She just gave me 3 coaches: PC, with Coach Hans, Chandler Gilbert. I can't remember who the coach was at Chandler Gilbert Community College, and South Mountain, where Coach Tony Maya was there at the time. And South Mountain was in a rough spot, man. And I chose the rougher diamond. I had a chance to walk on at PC, where I would split time with 2 other catchers, so it would have been like a 3-way type. And I was gonna sit in the middle. I wasn't gonna be the starter, but I was stronger than the third catcher. Um, they had just come back from freaking winning a natty that year. So that would have been a sweet spot for me to come in because guess what? The next 2 years they won national championships. But my heart pulled me to South Mountain Community College. Don't ask me why, but
Hey,
it did.
yeah, like I'm like, why? Because I know, like I get that, but it's just funny because now, like looking back and the
Mm-hmm.
relationship that you have with South now, because like That
Mhm.
was another connection with me being able to coach there for the short duration that I did, but getting
Mhm.
to coach with Mata, Telesco, Stankiewicz, and even Gonzalez, like that was the super squad. And now look at where they're
Oh,
at.
masterminds of the JUCO
Like,
level.
yeah, like I'm like, thank you, Jesus, for putting me around them for the time that I was with them because there was so many things that I saw and I learned. Like Mata, she cracked me up. And this is something that you and Mata have in common. Mata was a bullpen catcher at ASU.
Mhm.
She
Mhm.
never saw the field and she loved it. And that takes a different kind of athlete. And that's why I've always loved Mata, is she just
Mhm.
has that different grit about her. And some people don't like it. And I'm like, oh, whatever. Like, I like it. Like,
Mhm.
but I remember one day, I literally heard her say, in and at her knees as she's calling pitches. And I've looked at her. So after the game, I was like, you got to tell me, like, you're literally telling the batter where you're going to place it. And she looked at me, she goes, you think they're going to make an adjustment? Boom. I'm like, that is why Mata is the way she is.
Mhm.
She's like, be my guest. Let's go toe
I
to
dare
toe.
you.
I dare
Let's
you.
go. Exactly.
And I'm just like, so that was a big part of being able to coach with her. I
Mhm.
took that and I apply that to my girls in the travel ball world. And it's so funny because it does shock people's mind.
Mhm. And you'd be surprised catching a bullpen. You learn the game so differently. I was
She's
a
so
bullpen catcher
good.
at Pima. So like I said, I didn't suit up, but
Mhm.
when I was down in, I was there for every game, and I was in the bullpen. I was in my practice, not my practice, but like the team like travel uniform type,
Mhm.
the t-shirt, sweats. But I was in the pen. And ask me where I learned to be a pitcher. Ask me where I learned to be a pitcher. Ask
That's
me where I
exactly
learned the
how Mata
mechanics.
learned. Yep.
Ask me where I learned all the little things that make you a better pitcher in the bullpen.
Yep.
And not on the field, hours and hours and hours listening, focusing to pitching coaches, watching the pitchers make adjustments, having a task as a catcher. Is she making the adjustment?
Mm-hmm.
What are you seeing out of her hand? Where is her chest at release? Where is her front shoulder at release? What's her backside doing at release? There's just so many different things that just like my brain just like soaked in those moments.
Mm-hmm. No, and that's huge because unless as a catcher you allow yourself to soak that in, you miss the
Mm-hmm.
ship. Like it will
Mm-hmm.
sail. But you
Oh,
have to be
100%.
willing to grasp it. That's why like this summer, I was fortunate to come across a catcher who was out here for the summer. Her family lives out here, and her uncle reached out and was like, hey, she's doing lessons. She would like to get into the clinic world with you. She did her second round with Jen Schroeder's catching retreat.
Mm-hmm.
And Brianna, we call her Coach Bree, but Gardenier is her last name. She's at Grace College up in Indiana.
Mm-hmm.
And that girl, we did that pitching and catching clinic, and it was huge because she had never caught me before. But once
Mm-hmm.
I started throwing to her, I could see where she was at. And I was
Mm-hmm.
like, bro, like I would have loved to competed with you.
Mm-hmm.
She was watching everything I was doing. Like if I threw a drop and something was off, she knew what to say to me before I
Mm-hmm.
could even like it was crazy.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're a catching coach and you're listening to this, you might want to have a side hustle as a pitching coach. I'm just saying, like, or
It's just
start
so
running
different.
clinics for
You
pitchers
just
and
you
catchers.
just
Like,
see pictures from a different angle. It's just we
yep.
just I don't know. There's a different focus back there for sure.
Mm-hmm. No, I love it. It makes you more valuable for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So there you were at South Mountain, and how did that go?
Mm-hmm. Oh, rough.
Yeah.
I caught 116 games at
Holy
South.
crap. So you went from not to.
116 games. That's combining fall and spring seasons. But my dad passed away when I was there.
Dang.
So my first year there was tough, and then just going back and just working hard and getting at it. Um, there's things I wish I would have done differently. Simply because I was a voice on the field, but never a voice for myself. And so I was stuck in a position, and I'm gonna use the word stuck, like very take it like face value. It's not like I couldn't go anywhere. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? But it's not that I couldn't go anywhere. It was more of if I went, I was leaving my girls. I was leaving the team that I've been working with all, and so I was just stuck in a situation with a coaching staff who was not very um understanding of the evolution of the game. So my coach at the time, super knowledgeable dude, but very stuck in his ways. He played professional baseball at the New York Mets. He played men's fast pitch. He was a pitcher for men's fast pitch overseas. He played in Australia. He played in Japan. He played all over the place. But when it came to the evolutionary side of the sport, it was a my way or no way type situation. And not saying that he wasn't a good coach. I just feel like there could have been so many different adjustments that we made. You explained to me why we were a piddly old like 6-20 midway through the season, and we're hanging. We've got Pima, who is the defending national champion, against Stacey Iverson, a team that I straight up told them I could pick apart. I'm like, Coach, we can't do this past the third inning. We can't. We either need to switch pitchers up, or we were up 6-1.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, we either need to switch pitchers up, or we just need to change sequencing because they're picking it up.
Yeah.
And his response was like, let me call the game.
Ew, I hate that. And you know what's
And
funny?
so,
I'm just gonna side note. When I have said that, I have only heard that from a male coach. I've never
oh yeah,
heard
absolutely.
that from a female coach. They're like,
Mhm.
okay, like what do you see him? Like, let's work together. Like,
Mhm.
like,
And guess what? We ended up losing 8-6.
oh yeah, it was close.
6-1 going into the fourth inning,
Should
and
have won.
there's so many things. There's so many things that we could have done differently, and because I don't say the lack of, but it really was the lack of wanting to see a different perspective or a different side of the sport or the game from a person who's played it, which is even crazier at the highest levels. Just let me call you. You know what I mean? So, but my experience there wasn't a bad experience. It was a huge learning experience. I went from a program at Yuma High where we would come into the Phoenix area, and I mean, we were in the metro region, and we would just like demolish. And my senior year, we got to like the quarterfinals of state, ended up losing to, I'll remember this till the day I die because, you remember your last game.
Yeah.
And we lost to, oh gosh, it was a Centennial out of Scottsdale. And it's just, one of those things where it's such a close game and we lost by 1 run, and it was just brutal to like go out that way. But going from a program where I had a female coach who was a former college softball player with a male coach who had former collegiate softball coaching experience under his belt, surrounded by girls who worked so hard, going to a college program where the girls worked just as hard, if not harder, but not having the leadership that we needed to push us past that was hard. There was an expectation for us, but never the expectation for the leadership, for the coaching staff. So,
Yeah. It's that old saying, humility versus ego.
No, we have no room in it. We have no room for it in the sport.
I know.
This is the most unforgiving sport you could play in your life.
Yep, that's true. I mean, I think baseball is the same way. It's just like there's more money. That was one thing. Like if you go back my old YouTube channel, I do have Mata as a guest. And that was one thing that she and I were very passionate about is like softball is not where it should be because we don't have baseball money. We need baseball money. So like all these new rules that are changing with pitching, people reach out to me like, hey, it's happening. You and I have talked about it. And I'm like, yeah, it's going to take 5 years of documented, if any, injuries to show the basic knowledge, which you and I feel very passionate about, we are women. We have
Mm-hmm.
hips that fluctuate because we have babies. We are
Mm-hmm.
not dudes. Like,
Mm-hmm.
we are biomechanically built differently. So
Absolutely.
it's going to take time.
Uh-huh.
There's going to be a lot of phenomenal softball players whose dreams are going to get shattered because of this rule
Mm-hmm.
change,
Mm-hmm.
because the physicality part of the game is going to break them.
Yep.
That's why I won't teach it. If you come to me and that's what you do, like, I honestly, I don't attract those clients. So I
Mm-hmm.
don't even know what I would do. But if somebody was like, can you teach me how to do it? I'm gonna be like, no.
Yeah.
Like, it's
And you know
not,
what the crazier part is not just that our hips are meant to do monthly,
we
every
soften.
single month, our ligaments, our tendons in our hips, in our knees, are old rubber bands. They get soft, they yank longer than they should. There's more flexion to them. We're hypermobile beyond words during that time. We may not feel it in the moment because we feel miserable, but our bodies, the pains and the aches that we feel is because our body is losing so much.
Oh yeah. Like, I remember having this conversation with my husband about our daughter when she started lifting. I was
Mm-hmm.
like, when it's like her time, like, she has to be super knowledgeable. I don't want her PRing. I don't want
Mm-hmm.
her raising the weight. Like, she's going to
Mm-hmm.
stay at what she was doing the week before,
Mm-hmm.
because it increases your chance of injury.
Oh
And
no,
I don't think a
for
lot of
sure.
coaches know that. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I think the coaches that, like, kind of we follow and we've created, like, correct me if I'm wrong, but the foot doctor, is that,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I think that guy puts out so much knowledge, and I
Mm-hmm.
think he's very, like, in tune with the female athlete for being a dude.
And you know what's crazy is his knowledge isn't anything other than movement. How does your body
Physiology.
move? How is your body made to move? How are your joints made to move? My finger is not meant to go past that.
Right.
Nor is it meant to go this way, nor is it meant to go that way. My finger is meant to go this way. So
Mm-hmm.
why should I force my lower extremities to do something different than they are meant to do while bearing 100% of my weight?
Well,
He's so knowledgeable. I love watching his stuff. I love it.
he dropped a video the other day. It was probably like 2 weeks ago, of some of his pitchers pitching live, and it was the motion of just loading and going.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, oh, this needs to go viral. Like, people need to understand that they don't need
Mm-hmm.
a toe lift, because yes, I have a couple pitchers that do it, but
Mm-hmm.
they came to me as a toe lifter, but they would prematurely open, so their whole backside. So we take it
Mm-hmm.
out, we put them back on the balls of their feet, and then I test the waters. And I'm like, and this is usually like a 4 to 5 week, if they're working hard at it, we'll test
Mm-hmm.
the waters, and I'll say, lift your toe. And they'll lift their toe and they go straight into that toes down. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, oh my gosh, you did it. You completely reset your mechanics.
Mm-hmm.
So, but what happens is we get these little girls, I see these big girls doing the toe lift, and they go here, open, and then they get to be 11 and 12. They hit a
Mm-hmm.
wall in their speed, and they're like, I want to be faster. Well, you're not going to get faster, because at
You're
11 and
anchoring your
12,
body down.
yeah. But here's the thing that I love to pick, like, people's brains, is like, you and I will see video of D1 players. They'll have like a split second of a broken ankle, and people will justify their 12-year-old mechanics because of a split second of a
Well,
D1 player.
odds are their 12-year-old hasn't started puberty. They're not lifting weights. They are growing or going through a growth spurt. They are not at max growth,
Yeah.
physically or mentally. You cannot compare a grown adult's body structure and muscular strength to get out of that to a 12-year-old who just is expecting it to happen.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm like, whoa, whoa, whoa. No, your daughter needs to learn how to move within her body, not
100%.
Sally's body. Like, she's 6 foot. Your daughter's 5'5". Like, we've got to work with what she's got.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can't handle that, then you should have thought about having kids, because
Yep.
you've got to be present with your kid the whole time. You talk about growth spurts,
Yeah.
like, growth spurts are gnarly. Growth spurts, will cause a parent to be like, oh, we're going to go to another pitching coach. Oh, we're going to go to
Mm-hmm.
another hitting coach. You're not
Mm-hmm.
doing this for my daughter. Bro, did you check her pant line? Look at your
Mm-hmm.
daughter's ankles.
You have to
Is there a foot
retrain
coming?
movement. You have to teach them timing all over again. They have to remember that growth means it's going to take a little bit longer for things to finish.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just the body won't catch up until you teach it to catch back up.
And that needs to be more focused. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and that's why I have like long-term clients, like
Right.
Anna Baca, she's been with me since she was 8. She's gonna be 18. Like she's in
Mm-hmm.
her senior year. There's a reason why she's still with me.
Mm-hmm.
Not only have I been patient with her, but her parents have been patient with her.
Mm-hmm.
And now she's like, this is the first year after a couple weeks off going into fall ball.
Mm-hmm.
We have no negative mechanics. This is the first year. So as her coach, I'm like, sister, you are stronger. You are like
Mm-hmm.
this is like you're getting to that point where you've grown, but now we get to get stronger.
Mm-hmm.
And she's so
That's what I tell
excited.
the girls. My job isn't to be here long term to correct you on the same mechanics over and over and
Over
over
and
again.
over and over again. So if you think it's hard
My
doing it, imagine how hard it is for us to correct it over.
Yeah, and over again. I always tell them my job is to eventually not see you come through that door once or twice a week. I don't want you to come through that door twice a week for the rest of your career.
No. Once a
And
week.
parents they look at me like, huh? I'm like, that doesn't make sense because that's my job. I'm a coach. I'm a pitching coach. I'm booked out weeks out. So people get in, they get in, and then some of them try to book out twice. And I'm like, no, I don't. Yes, me not seeing you twice a week, one less lesson a week is less money in my pocket, but that's not the goal here. The goal here is to create positive movement habits and self-awareness of what your body is doing right and what your body is doing wrong, and teach you how to correct it in the moment
And be
without me being in your ear the whole time.
Yeah. No, like that's what your parents are there for.
Mm-hmm.
Parents can be in your ear. Like it goes back to being disciplined. And again, that's why, like,
Mm-hmm.
as a parent, if you're listening to this and you're looking for an instructor, don't be so shy to not ask the person that you're hiring to work so many hours a month with your kid,
Mm-hmm.
like what their background is. What adversity have you faced? Because, like,
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know this about your dad in your first year at South. I had no
Mm-hmm.
idea. But here's the big picture. If you hadn't have had your disciplinary, like your non-negotiables set up, you
Mm-hmm.
probably wouldn't have made it through that year,
I
which
probably
is,
wouldn't have even come back. It
yeah,
was early in the season. It was Labor Day weekend.
but that's what I'm saying. Like, we as coaches are giving these girls daily non-negotiable drill work, things they
Mm-hmm.
are doing and should be doing. So when they do hit that growth spurt or they hit a funk, a peak in a valley,
Mm-hmm.
they're going to continue to show up, and then boom, they're still here.
Mm-hmm.
They're thriving.
And I just want to say, in this sport, there's so many more valleys than there are peaks.
Always.
So many more valleys than there are peaks, and it's a sport of failure 70% of the time.
I mean, it's like literally they did the study. It is like the hardest thing to do, and if we're just talking about hitting, to hit a
Is to
flying
hit a
object
ball
with a stick.
Mm-hmm. A
It's like,
cylinder, a sphere
yeah,
with a cylinder. It's not even like a flat object. It is a cylindrical object with weight hitting a sphere while moving at it. Like, science tells you it should only go up. You know what I'm saying? Like, but
yet we are trained to help athletes get through the ball
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and know where, like, I love the fact that my daughter, and I know I love sending you video of her, like, look what Mars did today, and you're a
Mm-hmm.
fan, and she's like, put me on a plane, I'll go play with Coach Ev any day.
Right now, I got an extra room. Right now, let's go.
That's why I told her, I was like, she's got an extra room. She's like, you really let me go? And I'm like, 100%. Yeah. I'm like, she's one of those people that I want in your life because she's lived that life. She sees your big picture. She still sees her big picture. Like, that's what I
Mm-hmm.
want. But the fact that I was listening to her educate some of her teammates the other night because they were like, so on an inside fastball, I need to be quicker, right? And she's like, well, it depends on where you want to hit it. And the other girl was like, what? And she was like, well, if you're trying to go oppo, like if it's a situational thing where your winning run is on third, where should you hit it? And she's
That's
like,
awesome.
away. And she's like, yeah. So what you have to do is you have to bring your hands, like she was like, it
Keep
was,
them inside longer.
yeah, she's like, keep them inside longer. Don't be so quick to swing. She goes, then you're just gonna hit it
That's so
straight down the
awesome.
third base line, giving that third base a chance, that third baseman a
To make the
chance to
play.
catch it. Yeah, like
Hmm.
no.
That's
And
so awesome.
I was like, man,
That's
if
so
I can
awesome.
hear you right now. So yeah, and that's like the mentality. Like we haven't even talked about how hard it is to hit, with a good mentality. You can't bring
Hmm.
a crappy day into your box. You can't bring a crappy day into the mound. You just can't bring a crappy day past the chalk line.
Leave it at the gate, man. You're not even supposed to bring it on. Leave it at the gate.
100%. So let's talk more about after college. What did
So
you do?
after college, I got to play international ball.
So you
I
went
went
two
down to
years
Mexico.
JUCO. What happened after
That's
that?
it. I went straight international ball. I
Oh,
I finished after 2 years JUCO. I didn't know that I had the chance to play D1 ball.
okay.
Because everything when you're in the JUCO level, everything goes to your college coach. It doesn't go to you. So once you're bound, well, I don't know if it's changed now, but then if you're bound to NJCAA contract or the letter of intent, you cannot. They have to go to your coach before they go to you. Well, I didn't know that they had been going to my coach until like that following fall. He's like, you just fell off this summer, and I was like, man, I went home. I wasn't far. I was in Yuma, but from Phoenix. But he was like, I had some letters in the office for you one of the days I came back. I'm like, hello. So I had NC State for an invite, and I had Boston College on their inaugural season for an invite
Oh my
for a
gosh.
visit. But I mean, would I have gone? Probably not. The wound of my dad passing away was fresh. My mom was going through a really bad spot, so my job was to come home. I came home, and one of my old high school teammates who played 2 years at Arizona Western was like, she was done as well. She goes, "Hey, um, there's a team down south of the border that's looking for a pitcher and catcher. Are you down?" I was like, psh, that was my pitcher in high school. I could call
Aw.
games like this, and she would throw it. And so I was like, let's go. We get down there, man. And then it was a combination of women in their 20s and 30s, right? Some who you could tell had like slow pitch experience, at least right there, the teams we played locally, and former collegiate ball players. But boy, the further down we got towards Tucson or the further down we got towards San Diego, TJ area, it was like playing college ball again. You know
Oh
what I'm saying?
man.
Like a
Yeah.
lot of these girls that finished playing ball, that were most of us that were from border towns, obviously, but we went home and had another opportunity to continue playing.
That's so cool.
And while we didn't get a paycheck, they paid for our food, they paid for our travel, they took
You
care of
guys
our
were
equipment.
royalty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was a good time. And then so I did 2 years there. Um, then I got married, I had kids, my husband joined the Navy, um, and we ended up in Spain. In that time I was still coaching. At that time I had returned back to Yuma High to coach. My coach from Yuma High moved over to Boulder Creek in Anthem. I would
Okay.
go up to Boulder Creek and do some camps with her. I would coach her summer team with her. So I was still in touch with her. She's still one of my greatest mentors till this day. She's back in Utah now. But I was coaching, and then we moved to Pensacola. We were there for a short period, not long enough for me to kind of figure out what the softball scene was like. But then when we got to Virginia, and I realized, um, in the area, Hampton Roads area, Virginia Beach, Norfolk area, excuse me, Travelball was fresh. It was young, mostly because it's a military town, so not very many kids stick around. Everybody's 3 years, and at least not in my experience, but most people's experience, if you're stationed at Norfolk Naval Station, you don't want to do more than you need to there. It's
Mhm.
big Navy, too many politics, everybody wants to get out. But so I had 3, 4, 5 girls, I think, that I would go do lessons with.
Okay.
And I kid you not, this was in the Craigslist days. Like I posted a thing on Craigslist because my friend's daughter was like, you should do lessons. And they came about, and one Saturday I
Hold
would
on.
work.
We have to like give a shout out to all these kids that have no idea what Craigslist is. Craigslist was it before MySpace?
I
Or
was
did it
no, it was right around
around the same
MySpace.
time? So
Yeah.
they've heard of MySpace if their parents are in their
I
latter
hope they've
30s.
heard of MySpace.
But Craigslist now is like basically you just kids make jokes
Marketplace.
about it. Like
It's like
it's
Facebook Marketplace, right? But now you have a face to everything. Then
yep,
you had to like post an ad. And I
yep.
would say it's like the newspaper, but then they look at us like, huh? So, but yeah, Craigslist days, I post an ad. I'm a former collegiate ball player. These are the kind of lessons I do. Reach out to me if you want lessons. And within the first 2 weeks, I had 5 girls. And I was like, oh, this is all I need to take right now. I didn't want any more. It was something really to pass the time, have a little bit of extra spending money, and stay involved in the sport. Um, so I started there, and then I got to coach travel ball there for a team out of Virginia Beach. It was a small, um, it was a little league team that was way too good for little league,
Mm-hmm.
but didn't have, and this is where for me the pureness of the sport was beautiful. They were way too good for little league. The girls were amazing ball players, but they didn't have the coaches confident enough to jump into the travel scene. So they looked for coaches to do that. And so me and another girl were like, hey, I reached out to them and they're like, well, can you come in today to talk to the guy who leads the current little league team and like kind of meet with the parents. And then the other girl showed up and we coached them for like a summer, a fall, and a partial spring. And then we got shipped out to Spain.
So
But yeah.
I'm gonna pause because I know some parents are gonna hear this and then be like, way too good for Little League. Like, what does that even mean?
Okay,
Like
so
you and I know, but and we don't mean any
so
disrespect to Little League. So if
no,
any
no, no, not at
Little
all.
League like board people, anybody who's listening, we're not disrespecting Little League. I that's actually where I first started coaching was Little League.
Right.
So
And I coached little league and rec ball. That was my first taste of coaching
yeah.
outside of the high school level. When I say too good for little league, I'm not saying um that little league doesn't hold a super huge important part of our sport. I think little league softball um did so many amazing things and I wish they continued to stay in our communities.
Well, they
Um
created the travel ball scene. Like, let's be
yes.
honest.
Yeah.
So
So what was happening in that sense there was everybody was in a hurry. This was about 8 years ago ish.
mhm,
Everybody was in a hurry to go play travel ball,
mhm.
and the parks were no longer. But this group of girls wanted to continue to play Little League because they had aspirations to play in like the Little League World Series. But they realized that they were not getting the competition anymore in the parks because nobody wanted to play in the parks. Everybody was in a hurry to go play club ball, FOMO,
Yeah.
right?
Yep. FOMO.
And so they wanted to take that next step to go play travel ball, a little more competitive ball, because as one of the girls, and I'll never forget what she told me, she goes, I love playing park ball. This is where I get to see my friends. I see them more than one weekend a month. She played travel ball in Texas, but they moved there because of the military. And she's like, but I love doing it because this is where I get to see my sisters.
Mhm.
And she was like, but this is really, really hard for those of us who have aspirations to play collegiate softball
Mhm.
to not be able to compete within our little league because they're just destroying everybody. But again, they didn't have the coaches confident enough to take the leap because they didn't know what travel ball was.
Right.
Travel ball there was starting up. A lot of the girls that were leaving for like the Arlington, Virginia area, DC area, or they would go just south of the border to North Carolina, where travel ball was huge. And so again, no disrespect to Little League, it's that's where to me is where I saw about 8 years ago is where I saw local rec leagues, Babe Ruth League, Little League, Cal Ripken, all of them start pulling away from their communities and um, not really um, putting back in to keep the league and keep the parks up and running, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. No, it
Um,
does. It's like having a hole in your bucket and you expect to be full.
mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mhm.
And so now what we say, and I've had this conversation with you, and it's again nothing against um, the little league side or the rec ball or the park ball side. Travel ball is not rec ball. young travel ball. No offense to any of these parents.
Right.
If your kid is 10U, they have no business playing travel ball. They have no business playing 5 games in one day. None. If an 18U team has no business playing more than 2 games in a day, our little ones, our 10-year-olds and 11-year-olds and 12-year-olds that are growing and their bodies are changing, have no business playing one-day tournaments where they're playing 4 to 6 games a week. We've had this conversation. You and I are on the same page on this. If a full-grown collegiate athlete doesn't play more than 2 games in a day, why do we put our kids through it? I am the biggest vocal voice. I'm the biggest voice out here against one-day tournaments. And people here play year-round. It's Florida. It is hot.
Yep.
Why do you want to play one-day tournaments? Why are you destroying your kids?
Play at 117 degrees. Like
that's what I'm saying. Like that makes no sense.
Like we got girls catching that are wobbling.
Mm-hmm.
It's like they're hydrating. Their body is starting to shut down because they're done. They're tapped out. So I think on the hotter seasons, like let's cut it down. Let's reorganize the tournaments like per regional areas of the United States. You know? Let's do something to help them out versus make it harder on them. So,
but the lack of putting into the little leagues, this is where I'm tying it together. The lack of putting back into the little leagues is causing this.
100%.
Travel ball side.
Yep, because now we have all these teams that think they want to go play travel ball because there's nothing in the little league or in the rec ball scene. So they're like, well, crap, everybody's playing travel ball, so we're going to take brand new 10U players and we're going to dub them a travel team, and they don't know which way's up. Like I 100% agree with you. Like that, this is a really good place to shut it down, because on our next, this is going to be a 2-parter, folks. On our next,
we knew it though. We knew that this was going to be a 2-part, maybe even a 3-part podcast, because there's a lot.
There's a lot.
And we're so passionate about the little things that people don't bring to the surface.
And because the little things have not been delegated and done correctly, not one way or the highway, just done correctly. Now we're in these weird places with youth sports in general.
100%.
So it's like, can anybody just do what's right? Oh, but wait, what you think is right isn't what I think is right, but your opinion is better than my opinion. It's like, come on, guys, there's a reason why there's rules. Like, I mean, we have a Constitution of the United States. Are we gonna, I mean, I don't want to say anything, but it's probably gonna start getting rewritten because
they'll ratify it
a different way.
Yeah, they'll ratify it sooner than later.
So stupid. Don't even get me started. So real quick, as we shut down part 1, I'm going to give everybody a little teaser for part 2. We're going to talk about high school versus travel ball and how the coach of either high school or travel can sometimes kill the experience for the athlete. And parents, your daughter's experience should be the front of everything you do in high school or travel ball. But as a coach's wife, I have seen dads and even moms of like baseball players like come at coaches on such a stupid level. Like I remember one year there was a dad that was like, why do you have my son playing center field when you got your assistant coach's son playing shortstop when my son is a shortstop? You know, my husband's reply was, it's my job as a coach, especially at the high school level, right? Because that's a lot like college. You are hired to win. He said, well, what I can see is your son does what's best for the team in center field. And yes, he can play short too, but right now this is how it's going to be. That same dad, when his son laid down a bunt, and that bunt, it was a squeeze bunt, and that winning run was on third, and we ended up winning. There was no congratulations, coach. Not that he coaches to look for it, but there was nothing but, why did you have my son bunt? He doesn't bunt.
To see here's the deal, and I'll finish with this before we shut down. Our job at that level is to put the best 9 where they fit best.
Thank you. It's one giant puzzle, and we're at the helm of it.
Yep.
And you know, my best friend took the high school I graduated from and she's a little younger than I am, but she took them the furthest they had ever been since 1983. And it was the end of the year banquet, and that was her resignation. She gave her speech and said, so with that, I'm going to be stepping down because you guys obviously think you can do a better job.
Oh, that's awesome.
It was amazing.
I'm proud of her.
I know. It was so good. But one more thing, one more teaser. We're also going to talk about the recruiting process, like not just like the process, but like, does my kid need to play high school ball? Does my kid need to play travel ball in order to be seen by a college coach?
This is going to be a good one.
Oh,
so I'm excited for this one. Real quick, before I go, shout out to my people.
Rip City.
Go Rip City.
Oh, yeah. Rip City is owned by, what's his name?
His name is Jared Brown. He's a former member of the Pittsburgh Pirates organization, a freaking treasure trove of knowledge. The man is a gold mine.
Yeah, amazing. Like if I ever go out to Florida, I'm gonna go meet him, obviously, but I'm gonna be like, can I run just a pop-up pitching clinic today?
And then I'm sure he'd let you too. So just let me know when.
And first you have to catch. We gotta get bullpen. You gotta catch.
Yes, me. I gotta catch your bullpen for sure.
That's awesome. All right, girl. Well, you guys stay tuned. Part 1, this is gonna drop, and then part 2 will be a week behind. So you're gonna want to make sure to subscribe, follow, like, and share this episode with a parent, a coach, or an athlete. So much knowledge is being dropped here, but the best way you can support the Kally V podcast is to follow, subscribe, like, and share. And the big picture is not only are you supporting the Kally V podcast, but you're also supporting Coach Evelyn at Rip City with what she does with her athletes, not only the kids she coaches on a weekly basis with instructions, but her travel teams.
Yep.
So we would appreciate it very much. So,
all right.
Girl. Well, thanks for being
good talking to you, baby.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
Stay out of that hill.
Okay. Bye.